The mind can ramble off in strange ways.
You're in for a real treat.
Introducing Punchlines
Podcast.
Your next comic has been on the Jay Leno Show, David Letterman. Please welcome the very funny Mitch Fatel.
Punchline
Podcast.
Oh, that guy's fucking hilarious.
Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, the mind can achieve.
Punchlines. All right, and we're back with another exciting episode of Punchlines Podcast with Mitch Fatel and Cory Sanhagen.
Hello.
Cory Sanhagen, I want you to know our guest is Greg Fitzsimmons, who has been a good friend of mine. Can I say good friend or just?
Oh, my God. I mean, when you start out, because I came to New York, I'd been doing stand-up maybe like 3 years when I came to New York, and I'm from New York. And then you were part of my class. And
Right.
when you're one of the guys and girls that came up together, you feel even closer later on because you're the survivors. You're the ones that kept at it.
That went through it.
Yeah.
There's a lot that fell off.
Oh,
too,
yeah.
that just Did you ever
Stu
have?
Kamens.
Did he fall off?
Yeah.
What is he doing these days?
I don't know.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Nice. Well, that. Did you ever come close to thinking you weren't going to be successful, or did you always know you'd be successful?
I
Speaking
didn't
of
let
that.
myself think about it. I came from, I think a lot of my motivation, and I wish it was different, came from fear. And I was driven by, I did everything I could to try to make a living at it and to be able to get stage time and perform and get better. And
Yeah.
I really just thought about getting better as a comic. I didn't really think in terms of like making it.
You didn't have a backup plan?
No, never had a backup
Me
plan.
either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I started doing it in college. So I was making a living by the time I finished college because I was in Boston, which at the time had so many. It had 100 rooms in New England that you could work.
Boston did, yeah.
Yeah. So I was fortunate because if you had a car and you could do 15 minutes, you could make a living.
Yeah.
Wow,
So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was like me and Rogan, Burr, Patrice, Dane Cook, Louis C.K., Mark Maron. I mean, the list goes on and on.
I remember being in the cellar, and Barry came in, Barry Katz, world famous manager, and he had a new guy with him named Dane Cook.
Yeah.
And I remember when Dane went on going like, that guy sucks. I remember thinking like, he wasn't going to make it. And yeah.
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 Yeah, I mean, that club, Barry's Club, he brought in a lot of people.
That's where I started, Boston Comedy Club.
Yeah, a lot of people. I think somebody should do a documentary about that club.
Yeah, they should.
Whoa, that'd be cool. Yeah, those
Yeah.
were some really big names.
Yeah,
How
I
long
mean-
ago was that?
That was late 80s through, up until probably 10 years ago. And it was like, that's where Chappelle started. And, I mean, he was there every night.
Did you think he
Louis
was good
there every
when he
night.
came? What I always talk about with Cory on this a lot is that I didn't appreciate back then all the talent because I was so obsessed with jealousy.
Yeah.
And that now I go like, these were these great comedians starting out that I just didn't appreciate at
Yeah.
all. And that kind of makes me sad because I'm like, they were all like you said, from our class, like it's a pretty good class.
Yeah. Even guys like Geraldo, I was like so competitive with Geraldo that like, I mean, everybody has, I don't know if it's like this in the fighting world.
It is.
You have that one person that you're really competitive with. And I think it's in a way healthy because it really drives you. It really makes you want to do as well as they're doing.
Yeah, it'll get you up out of bed when you don't feel like getting up. Yeah.
Who's your guy?
There's a couple guys on the team, but I don't know who my guy is in the division. But yeah, I know what you mean though, where it's like, yeah, fuck this. This guy isn't going further than me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah.
But with you, there's different weight classes, so there's guys that you can root for them because you'll never have to fight them.
Yeah, sure.
Whereas for us, it's just, which is so silly that there's any jealousy in our business at all because it's never going to do anything but help us if someone gets successful. That's what I realized later on.
Yeah, I think I felt like the first time, and I think it might have been Gaffigan getting Letterman, because that was the holy grail. That was everything.
I know that now, yeah.
Yeah.
And so when he got it, I remember being happy for him, and that was a turning point for me.
I don't think I was ever happy for anybody. And then, seriously, I felt I was always in competition. And then last time you came here to Colorado, I worked with you, and I was sitting in the back, and I was, for the first time, just watching you as a fan, and I was like, man, that motherfucker's good. Like, I can't believe these people. I mean, I really thought you were great, and I was like, why didn't I just appreciate those moments back then? Right. But I guess that's what age does for us, you know? Yeah,
I mean, look, it's a very, very competitive field that all of us are in. And I think when the stakes are that high and there's that little room to get in, you really, I think it's hard to be sort of generous with everybody. They really are your competition. You realize later in life that they're not.
Yeah.
But at the time, it really feels like it is. Like now, I really feel like, every time somebody does a Netflix special and gets traction from it, you go like, oh, that's great. More people are excited about comedy now because of Sebastian or because of, Nikki Glazer or somebody who just pops all of a sudden.
Yeah. Wow, I wish I could be at that point with my fighting too.
What do you mean?
Yeah.
Well, to be honest with you, I never told this to you, Mitch, but like you talking about that actually has helped me a lot. Like not look at my competitors as like competitors. They're just like, other people that are going to do, like you said, Greg, like really good stuff for the sport. And like, that's good.
Yeah, we were once having a talk, and I always said to him in a weird sort of way, like, are you a fight fan, by the way?
No.
Okay, so you know who Conor McGregor is, though, right?
Yeah.
And that's my point, is even though you're not a UFC fan, you know who Conor McGregor is. And I kind of said that, like, Conor McGregor was kind of like our Dane Cook.
Yeah.
That he's just this loud guy that makes a lot of waves, and probably a lot of fighters are jealous and saying, I'm better than him. Why does he get all this success? But my wife knows about UFC because of Conor McGregor.
Right.
And as a result, I was able to get her to start watching some fights with me, and then she started to and so it never does anything but bring in people. And
right. Dane, basically combined stand-up with the internet for the first time.
He was the first one to figure that out.
He was the first one to use a website and to use, at the time, it was, what was that site people used to use?
Match.com.
Yeah, he was fucking everybody on Match.com. All secretaries, sad secretaries.
You ever hook up with someone from the internet?
No, because I've been with my wife for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, I can remember being with my wife and having dial-up and downloading porn pictures.
Me
and
too.
It would take like a minute for the picture to download.
Which I thought was great because it took the excitement of waiting for the picture to load.
And it would start from the top, so you'd see your face and you'd be like, nice.
Yeah.
Then you'd see the tits and you'd start.
Yeah.
And then by the time it got to the vagina, you were ready to close.
Oh, I was done. Yeah.
Never mind the feet.
High speed ruined it for me because I loved that excitement.
Yeah.
That sounds way better than like some corny story that they try to feed you for like the first 5 minutes of like a 15-minute video. Yeah, totally.
Right.
Totally.
Well, you get to fast forward. But if you want to watch a good narrative in your porn, there's a thing called Japanese hidden camera massage porn. Put lesbian at the end of that. And and it's women that come into these massage places and they have no idea what's about to happen. They think they're getting a massage.
Yeah.
And then you have these Asian, it's in Japan.
Right.
And they start the massage and they do a normal massage. And then when they get to the butt, they start really working it. And then they start to work the inner thigh. And they get in there and they have them flip over and they start to rub the stomach and the breasts.
Yeah.
And they really rub the breasts. And the women start to get turned on. And then by the end of it...
Cory's penis is knocking me over my chair right now, by the way.
By the end of it, they're full on...
Having...
manual stimulation and sometimes more. And you can tell... And people go, well, some of this stuff is fake. This shit I've been watching for over 2 years. Mitch... It's the only porn I've watched for 2 years.
All right, this was Punchlines Podcast. That was Greg Fitzsimmons, our guest.
Is this
we got to go now.
What's it called?
Punchlines Podcast. Yeah, we got to go. Cory, you seem way too healthy to watch porn. This guy had you'd be shocked to a fighter. He's had a great childhood. Met his parents last week. Sweetest people in the world.
Yeah?
Yeah, I don't know
nice.
where the rage comes from.
Well, does it have to be rage?
I don't have a lot of rage, no. I do.
You have Dark Passenger, which comes out when you're pissed.
So Dark Passenger is just the gym nickname that I get for, like, if I get hit good, I'll, like, go a little crazy on people sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, but I have that under control now. I don't know, man. Like...
Did your father hit you?
No. No, I was never hit.
Did your father hit you?
No, never
Oh,
hit
yeah.
me.
Yeah, I know. I wanted to talk about this because you talk about it in your act, and I've also done some research on you. We have more in common. I'm learning now that I have more in common with some of my friends than I ever knew.
Yeah.
That we were all beaten.
Yeah.
And you did a bit in your act that I wanted to talk about last time about how good what a good dad you are to your kids.
Uh-huh.
And compared to the dad that you had.
Right.
And I feel exactly the same way now with my son. So I want to talk about that.
It's a nice thing, isn't it, to be able to sort of change? Because you know for a fact that your grandfather hit your father,
Yeah,
your
sure.
great-grandfather hit your grandfather. Like, we're breaking...
I still hit my kid. I mean, no.
But we're breaking a cycle.
Well,
I mean, that's historic.
Yeah, you know, my abuse was more mental. My dad had Asperger's, and my mom was just totally mentally ill.
Yeah.
And so I had a lot of mental torture growing up. I hold my son a lot, and it really touched me because I finally have a kid now, so seeing other people do bits about kids now affect me differently. And you did this whole thing about, I forgot what it was, but sitting around dinner with your kids and just telling them about how good they have it compared to what you did.
Yeah.
And this is really sweet. I hold my son a lot. He's 2, and I just tell him he's safe.
Yeah.
That means a lot to me because I felt like
Right.
I was very unsafe as a kid.
Right,
And I keep
right.
saying you're safe, like that, you know.
Right, right. No, that's some therapy I did. Is it's called EMDR. You ever heard of that?
No.
It's for people that had trauma, and it is traumatic to be a young kid and be struck by the people that are responsible for you being alive, that feed you and keep a roof over you, that are your lifeline, literally, and now they're purposefully injuring you.
Yeah.
It's a real mind fuck, you know?
Yeah.
And even if it's just mental, it's the same thing.
Yeah.
To think that they want to cause you harm is very confusing, and you don't feel safe. And so EMDR is this technique where you hold on to two little grips, and they buzz back and forth alternately. You know how like people take the old school, like the watch that the shrink goes back and forth? The reason they do that is your brain has 2 sides to it, and they're not connected. And one side of your brain holds trauma. It's just, you know how we were talking earlier about how, like, if you're high, you just cycle bad thoughts.
Yeah.
And in life, we cycle the same bad thoughts over and over again. That's because they're trapped in there. The other side of the brain is linear. It's chronological.
Right.
It's logic.
Right.
And so when you hold the buzzers and it goes back and forth, and you talk about childhood stuff, and you don't have to go deep on it. You just have to describe what happened. And it starts to, one side of your brain starts to tell the other side, that happened a long time ago. You're
So
safe
that means
now.
that doesn't mean who you are now.
You don't have to keep reliving it.
Yeah. Does it make you cry?
Oh, yeah.
What does it stand for, EMDR?
Electromagnetic something. Or, now, you know what I shouldn't say, because it might be I. It might have the word I in it. Because
I think it might have I in it because I was going to say, because I work at a trauma facility still. I've
Yeah.
been working there about 4 or 5 years now, but it's all kids that come from like a history of trauma, so like a lot of abuse and neglect and stuff.
Yeah.
But we will do, like, if a kid is like, we call it the outburst stage or whatever, and like they're just complete having a fit and they can't bring themselves down.
Right.
We'll do that where we try, and with the eyes, not so much with the hands.
Yeah.
But with the eyes, sometimes we'll just, if us as staff, if a kid is doing that, we'll just throw a ball back and forth.
Right.
Because it makes their eyes go back and forth, and it really grounds them, but it also like brings back that connection part of the brain. But yeah, I know that they do that in a lot of actual like therapy sessions.
Yeah,
and
they
stuff.
call it discharging once you do it.
And if that doesn't
discharging
work,
the energy.
Yeah.
Corey just hits him in the liver real hard.
No, don't say that, man. No, I would. Don't say. I don't make those
I'm
jokes.
saying that I can
Yeah.
make those jokes.
I guess you can. Yeah.
But it's interesting because you talk about your childhood a lot on stage and your dad. And what I thought was interesting was it's so funny how the grass is always greener on the other side, because I grew up with a dad who didn't understand show business at all. He was a blue-collar guy who then got into business for himself with stocks and bonds. And I always thought, wow, if my dad was in show business, it would have been so much easier for me. He would have understood. And your dad was in show. Your dad was he famous? Was he a famous radio guy? Your dad?
Yeah, he was one of the biggest radio guys in New York my whole life.
Yeah, that's
It's on
and so
WNEW.
I would think that would have been the greatest thing in the world, and it was probably your biggest demon, right?
It was mixed. It was like, it was nice to like, you know, his station carried the Mets and the Giants and the Rangers. And so like we got to go to any game we wanted. So we would go to like all the games and we'd walk into Shea Stadium and all you'd hear is like, Fitz, hey, like people yelling out his name.
Whoa.
And, you know, we'd go to Rattazzi's, which is like the restaurant that Don Draper used to go to in Mad Men.
Yeah.
And it was like, we would go to the best restaurants and my dad would be like, you know, he'd be best friends with Dick Rattazzi, who owned the restaurant. And he'd get, you know, it was the typical, like, get the best table and all that. And he knew Sinatra because he played his music. And so that was all really, and my dad was also, had more charisma than anybody I've ever met in my life.
Your dad is still alive?
No, he died young. He died at 53, which is the age I'm at right now.
Yeah, me too.
And so so it was mixed. He could light up a room and he could light up the dinner table, but he could also come home with a black cloud over his head and be nasty to everybody and shut down and short-tempered. And then if you fucked up, you could get hit. And so it was very mixed. And it was, but he did support my career very much.
I was just going to say, was he in any kind of competition with you? Because
that's funny. I think towards the very end, maybe a little bit, only because he really wanted to be a stand-up comedian. He would always host, anytime somebody asked him to MC like a benefit night or whatever, he'd put on his tuxedo and he'd show up for like, you know, the Ancient Order of Hibernians in the Bronx or like the Boys and Girls Club in Yonkers or whatever. He'd show up and he did the same stories and he did crowd work. He fucked around with people.
Yeah.
And he loved it. And I really think if he'd been born in a different time, he would have become a stand-up also. And I think me watching him do that, I think made me want to do that also.
I think most radio guys want to be stand-ups. As a matter of fact, I don't think they're embarrassed to even admit it. They've almost all the radio guys that I've ever done are always go, man, you're really lucky. I've tried it. I can't, you know, and I think to myself, wow, I forget that we're, you know, it's funny because people always say, and now getting to know Cory, I think this is so interesting. People always go like, man, it's pretty cool. You can do that. And you go, wow, it's really not something I think is that big a deal. But then you realize how many people want to do it. And when you see bad people do it, you realize what a talent it is. And I'm assuming it's the same with fighting, that you're like, a lot of people probably go, why, man, I'm just as big as Cory. I can do that, you know, and don't understand there's so much more to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot to it, but I would say on the stand-up side, like, yeah, I think people want to do that because I ran into this like a long time, maybe when I was a teenager or something, and I was thinking, I was like, it was probably just me thinking about like, how can I get girls? How can I get girls? And I was like, man, like, what kind of person do girls and people just want to be around the most? Because I'm not very funny, and I wasn't very funny back then either. But like, I was like, oh man, I need to try to be funny, like, because that's what people like, you know.
Yeah.
But I never looked at it like that in fighting, or maybe I did, I suppose, when I was younger. But well, actually, yeah, I don't know. I haven't reflected on that, but I'm sure it had a little bit of level of that too, where it's like, yeah, maybe people will like me more if I can beat them up, or maybe I can, like, if I'm funny, people will like me more. You know?
I think that's so ironic you say that though, because I was always really funny and I wasn't getting the girls, and I was like, I have to start acting tough.
Right. I feel the same way.
Really?
I was out. There was this lake near my house that had spotlights around it on telephone poles and speakers that played music, and a heated shack where you could change into your skates and skating guards. And so, you know, back before global warming, that thing froze from Thanksgiving until March. And so we used to skate on it during the day, and then at night we'd go, and it was like a big social thing. You'd throw a case of beers in some snow on the side of the lake, and you'd sneak off and you'd drink and smoke a joint, and then all the girls were there. It was great. So I remember one time I was flirting with this girl named Celine, and I was making her laugh. I remember I was skating around, I was being goofy. And this other kid, Chris Spencer, who was just like a big, tough douchebag, skated into me on purpose and leveled me.
Still remember that moment, right?
And Celine started dating him. So much for the guy with the sense of humor gets the girl.
I hate to tell you this, but I married Celine.
You did?
Yeah.
I fucked Chris Spencer. I win.
Have you ever been in a fight?
Oh, many.
Have you been in many? Do you come from a tough background where you would fight because your dad would hit you?
Yeah, are you from the city in New York?
Probably. No, well, I lived in the Bronx until I was about 11, and then I was in Tarrytown, which was like a mixed town. It was like a factory town. So it was like there was a right and wrong side of the tracks.
Right.
And we were definitely on the right side. But
your dad made a good cash, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. So.
Yeah. And he was born with nothing. I mean, him and my mom were dirt poor growing up.
Yeah.
And then, but then I used to it was my drinking, really. I used to drink and then I would lose my temper and I'd get into fights. I spent 2 different weekends in jail for fighting. And
did you win a lot?
Yeah.
I was quick.
Nice.
I was quick.
Yeah.
And I was angry. I was fucking nuts. I broke a bottle once on a guy, and I got charged with assault with a deadly weapon.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you hated your dad. That's what it was. You were fighting your dad.
Maybe.
Yeah,
Wow.
I think so.
I didn't hate him, though.
Well,
I think I was mad at him.
You were mad at him. Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. By the way, did you guys ever make any peace before he passed?
Just the opposite, actually. We were very close, extremely close.
He never apologized?
Relationships are complicated. You know, I'd never hated him, but towards the end, his drinking, he was an alcoholic, and his drinking was so bad that by the end, I needed to take a break because I quit drinking, and a lot of my quitting was because of his drinking. I'd gone to Al-Anon meetings, and so I stopped, and I was taking a break from him because he'd gotten really bad, and then he died 6 months after I stopped. Well, he stopped talking to me, honestly.
Wow.
Because I wasn't coming home for Thanksgiving and Christmas from Boston.
Right.
So that was devastating. That was a terrible way to have him go. And
Yeah.
it took me a long. I'm still not over it. It's still.
Yeah, but I got to tell you, it always seems the grass is always greener. My dad and me, he just died 7 months ago.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And the weird thing is people say I'm sorry about that, and I feel uncomfortable because I don't really feel much when he died because we weren't very close at all.
Yeah.
The only anger I ever had towards my dad was that he always told me I wasn't going to make it as a stand-up comedian. He told me that wasn't really. That's why I always thought, if I had a famous dad who understood show business, he would have appreciated that. What bothered me is that after I did make it and do Letterman and all this stuff, just to show them that I was worthwhile, he never once told me that he was proud of me or he was wrong. He just went on he just started going oh, you got some money, let me invest it for you, because that's what he did for a living. He got into financial. And my mom always said, well, that's how he shows you he loves you, is he takes your money and tries to. And I'm like, yeah, but it would have been nice for him to go I guess I was wrong. You were funny and I'm proud of you.
That would have been a vulnerable thing for him to have to do.
And never did it.
He didn't feel safe doing that.
I always feel weird, though, because my dad's different than other dads because he had Asperger's, so he was socially unavailable. So it wasn't,
right.
And, it's really weird. We all have different dads. I was really shocked, Cory, and we haven't talked about this yet. So I met Cory's parents by accident last week. And so we walked in. So Cory's on the cusp of a humongous fight in the UFC, like one of the ones that you start out
You
going.
probably know him, Frankie Edgar.
I'm sorry. I really don't follow it at all. I know Brendan Shaw because he does stand-up.
Yeah, that's weird. You do so many fight podcasts, like you do Joe's and you do Fighter and the Kid, and you don't know.
I know. It's just, I don't know why. I don't watch a lot of sports, period.
Yeah, I'm that way with other sports. Really, I never watched MMA even when I was like...
You didn't?
No, I only watch the UFC now only because... that's my competition, and I gotta see what they're doing.
Right.
That's really it. But if I didn't have to do that, I probably wouldn't ever watch fights either.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I thought was really cool about Cory and his dad was they were in a restaurant that we just happened to be walking by, and they invited us in, and we walked in. And so Cory's just about to fight Frankie Edgar, who's one of the legends in the business, and it's just a huge fight. It's going to have a lot of eyes on it. And when we walked in, and it was about a week after Cory had told me, his dad was like, "Hey, Frankie, huh?" And I realized that he hadn't even told his dad. Your dad just found out by reading it or something. And I was like, I would have called my dad immediately. Like when I called my dad because I wanted him to love me so bad, anything I did positive. And I was shocked that you hadn't told your parents yet.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I don't know. I see them a lot, though. So I was like, I don't like using my phone a lot, so that's probably what it was.
Yeah.
I hate using my phone.
Yeah.
I hate it.
Yeah,
I like Cory. He's a simple guy. It's simple.
He does keep it simple. Yeah, just goes in there, kicks some ass, gets a paycheck, and does a podcast.
Right.
And that's his life.
So if your dad invested because I know you had some of those early development deal.
Yeah, I made development money, and
your dad invested for you?
My dad lost it all.
No way! way.
Yeah. My dad lost it all and didn't apologize
I'm sorry,
about.
I'm laughing. It's just I was really hoping you're going to tell me this great story where he invested it,
No.
and now you're comfortable for the rest of your life.
Dude, I'm 53. Why would I be starting a podcast now if I was financially sound? I'll tell you what my dad did. I finally made some money, and this is a tragic story. I finally made some money, and my dad was like, "Give it to me, I'll invest it." And iPhones had just come out.
Yeah.
And I said to my dad, "These iPhones are just coming out. I think we should put money in Apple."
Oh.
And he said, "Nah, it's a scam."
Oh.
And I said, "Just do me a favor, buy me." It was 100 shares at $40.
Yeah.
$30. No, I'm sorry, it was like $5. It's just stupid.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what it was. He bought it like $5, and then it went up to $40. And I had 100 shares, and he said, "All right, now that you made money on it, it's going to drop." It was at $40, and he goes, "So I'm going to take all of it out, and I'm going to put it all into this company that can't fail called AIG, which is AIG Insurance, which
Yeah,
failed."
right. In
And
2008.
he took all my money and put it into that.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
Yeah, so that's my story.
That's the motivation to get up every morning.
Brutal.
But it is motivation to get. Yeah, it's brutal.
Yeah.
But
What's
like you
brutal to
had,
me is that, go on.
did you, Ruth Ann Secunda, was she your
Yes.
agent? We all had this agent named
Yeah.
Ruth Ann Secunda, and she was
A pit bull.
She was a pit bull, and she was in the New York scene, and all the other agents were in L.A., but she was in New York because she knew this is where all the hot comics are
so
coming out
smart,
of.
yeah.
So she would grab me, and I mean everybody, Chappelle, and Jay Moore, and you name every hot comic that was in New York. And then we would go to she'd get us into the Montreal Comedy Festival where all the agents and the networks were, the studios and the networks were. And we would do a 5-minute set and do well. And then she would be cornering fucking Les Moonves.
Yeah.
And we'd walk out of there with a $200,000 development deal.
Whoa.
And she was getting everybody those deals. Lisa Ann Walters got 9 of those deals.
Yeah, I got a
Damn.
175 from Disney.
Nice.
Yeah, I was a waiter. I was a waiter
Yeah.
doing stand-up at night.
Right.
And then all of a sudden I had 175. And you were, at the time, dating Sue Costello. Is that the story? And she went to be your girlfriend and got a development deal?
No.
What's the story of that?
No, she came up, I did it, and she came up with me when I did it. And I got a deal. And then a couple years later, she got in, and she went up. She didn't want me to come with her.
Oh, okay.
And then
so
she got it. Then she got a crazy
$1 million
deal.
was what
Something
I remember.
like that, yeah.
And then I remember she got really mean. Did you notice that at all? I don't know if I ever talked to you about that, but Sue was this, I thought, sweet girl at the comic strip that I knew. She was friendly to everybody. And then she got a deal and she made $1 million, and then she was suddenly mean to me.
She was?
Yeah.
What'd she do?
She's just mean. Like, she acted like she was better than me.
Yeah.
Like, and then the deal never went anywhere, and then she was nice to me again. I remember being on a bus with her, and we were friends again. And I think now if I saw her, we'd be friendly with each other. But I remember thinking money changes people, and that's the first time I had ever seen that. But it changed me, too. Did money ever change you? I was a real dick to a couple of agents who called me out on it after I got my first deal because I thought I was really hot shit.
Yeah, I thought it was hot shit. And that's why I always give people a free pass when they first hit.
Yes,
I always
exactly.
say, like, all right, this is your asshole stage. You're going to
Yeah.
get through it, and then you're going to be humbled.
Yeah.
And then you're going to appreciate it the next time because it's like you get hits.
Sussman. Do you remember a guy named Jeff Sussman?
Jeff Sussman, sure.
Yeah, I saw him in Montreal, and I had just gotten my deal, and he said something to me, and I said, "Hey, you got to be nice to me now," or something like that. And he was like, "You're a dick."
Yeah,
And just walked
yeah,
away, and I
yeah.
always remember that moment.
That guy, he manages, most managers take on 20 clients.
He does
these
Stu
days,
Kamens now,
25.
right? Stu Kamens is his big cut.
His clients are Joe Rogan,
Yeah.
Kevin James,
Uh-huh.
and I think Kevin's brother, and I think that's it.
Oh, really? That's all he needs?
And he's doing pretty well off those two guys.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what about Ray Romano's managers? Just Ray and, who's the...
Rory Rosegarden?
Roy Rosegarden.
No, well, Rory's got a brother, Peter, and so they have a company together.
Yeah.
And I think Peter's got a bunch of clients. Rory's got, I don't know how many people he's got, but you're right. It's another smaller, these New York guys. It's the New York agents and managers that are a little bit more focused on staying with you. People tend to stay loyal to them. You come out to LA and it's like, Oh, it's fucking gross. You look,
Yeah.
you go on IMDb and you realize your
Yeah.
manager's got 25 other clients, and you're like, no wonder I can't get her on the phone.
It's like that in fighting.
I was just
too.
gonna say, do you have a
Yeah, it's
manager?
just- I do have a manager. My
Who are your
manager is really
sponsors?
great. I don't really have any good sponsors. I'm not big enough yet, you know.
It's crazy not big enough for the number 3 bantamweight. It's nuts. It's almost like our business. Like we could be there are comedians that don't sell anything compared, tickets compared to other guys who are just on a show or something.
Yeah.
Who suck. How many
Right.
comedians are, they're doing theaters that aren't even that,
Right.
I mean, I sell CBD. Like I have like a Sonoran CBD sponsors me, but I'd feel bad if I didn't say that,
Yeah, yeah.
after you asked me that. But
Right.
other than that, like not a ton. Like a massage place, Rock Solid MAT. But
It's a Japanese massage place where these women come in and they don't know they're about to get us. Did you ever hear about this?
We should film that. Is there a place for cameras? And could we put a stuffed animal on the shelf?
Yeah, let's do it. You could be
Whose
the first
eyes?
client.
Hey,
Is that what you're asking? You want to be that first
Yeah,
client
I
on
wanna
it?
be the first
Yeah,
one in.
totally.
The other thing that I remember from the old days, and it's so funny, you probably have memories of me that I don't know, and I have memories of you, and some of my old friends are coming on the show now, and I'm remembering stuff that I'm like, wow, there's something about you that I had heard, and I remember thinking like, oh, okay, well, I'm out. So one of my big things was getting girls growing up, and my whole thing was the number of girls I slept with. It became a marathon for me to get to a certain number. I think my goal was to get to 100. And I did get to 100, which was my big goal. And I think one time we were talking and your number was like a couple thousand or something. It was real high.
It's high, but it's not a couple
And I remember
thousand.
thinking like, well, okay, and then I'm out. And then I just folded my hand and got married.
Yeah, well, it was very hard too because I was in relationships, and so it was between the relationships I would really go out.
Wasn't it
and
about
do some
1,000 though was
damage.
your number?
Well, I don't want to talk about it. But,
Yeah, I wouldn't want to talk about that either.
but
But
then,
isn't it funny? It was so important to us at one time, and now we won't even talk about
yeah,
it.
but it was like a lot of it happened really young because
Yeah, me
where I
too.
grew up, there was just like everyone had sex, and then BU was fucking crazy.
Yeah.
It was just like all these girls that were like Japs from Long Island, and they were just very into sex.
And you had game? You had good game?
I had good game.
See, I didn't.
Yeah,
It
I
was-
could see Greg having much better game than you.
Yeah, I had no game. I still
Yeah.
have no game. I still can't believe I wouldn't have ever had sex with my wife if she didn't come on. I don't think there were many girls I had sex with that I had to really go after because I was so scared of getting turned down. So it was once I started doing shows, any girl that would show any interest, it didn't matter what
That's
they
so
looked like.
funny because I can remember you being with really hot girls.
After I started getting on TV.
yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
After you hit, you
And
were
I had a
always with
sense of humor.
hotties. Yeah,
Yeah.
but
But it
you're,
was-
you're cute as hell too. I know you hate hearing cute at this age.
At this age, I do.
Yeah.
Not really. Not kind of like it still.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Wow, I start hitting on him and he's like stuttering.
Yeah, I get a little nervous because
That was
I don't
quick.
want to be one of your numbers now.
1001.
But I remember that because I remember and now I look back. See, were you enjoying the sex at least? Because I look back now and I realize I wasn't even enjoying it. Like, you were?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're much more happier.
I loved making girls happy. I liked,
Are you good in bed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a big dick too.
Do you really?
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Like every girl I slept with, they all comment on it.
Wasn't your
Nice.
dick on the radio for a while and it would go into Shea Stadium and people would call to it?
Well, you know that bat outside of Shea Stadium?
That was your
That
dick.
was my dick.
I didn't know you were good in bed.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
You got to talk to Sue about that.
Yeah, ask her.
How long did you date Sue?
3 years.
And whatever happened with that? We thought you were going to get married, you and Sue.
Really?
Yeah. Am I not supposed to be talking about this? Is this okay?
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not in the loop enough to know what I'm not supposed to talk about or talk about. I just go back in my head to remembering times. And I remember you'd come in there with her. I thought she was hot. I thought you were really cool. I was jealous of you. I thought you were funny, but I didn't appreciate you like I do now. And then I found out your number, and then I just moved.
And that was it.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad I affected your life in a positive way.
Well, I don't know if it's positive.
Well, you're married. You're happily married with a beautiful kid.
Yeah. How many kids do you have?
2.
Corey, do you think having a kid's going to change your career at all?
I don't know. I've thought about that.
Are you married?
No, I have a girlfriend that I live with, though, so it's in that direction. But I don't know how that will impact me. I don't think it will. Like, I don't have, like, a moral problem with fighting? You know, is that what you're asking?
No, more that like, will you be worried more? Like I don't like, I'm worried all the time now about giving my kid a good life.
Yes.
That's what I'm worried about.
No, and it gets worse and worse. I hate to tell you.
Yeah,
the older you get, the more you worry about, like, it's no longer about, like, is she going to fall down the stairs or get burnt or abducted? It just becomes like, are they going to be motivated in life, and are they going to be true to themselves?
Yeah.
And are they going to, conduct themselves with dignity, and all that stuff becomes so important and consuming.
That is important stuff, though.
Yeah.
That is important stuff.
And I've also become the old guy now that says, like, plus this country's going to shit. Like, I feel bad for my son. I think life was so much better for us as comedians when we started out. It was simply, are you funny?
Yeah.
That's all it was. It really was. It was just, are you funny? And now there's all this, everything's got into these little microcosms of certain kind of comedians, black comedians, Indian comedians. Everything's turned into this weird world now. And I don't think it was like that when we were, and I feel bad for my son about that people are being identified now more by their.
Oh, I mean, even getting into college, it's a big deal to be a straight white boy.
And that's what my son
It makes it a
is.
lot harder to get into the schools.
Yeah.
And again, like, look, we had a good run. The straight white male, we had from forever ago until,
Yeah.
what, a year and a half ago? So if you didn't save some money or have your father blow it all, then, you fucked up.
Yeah.
You've got some money, though, right?
I have enough money that we can live. I have a special out for sale now, and if it sells, I'm going to have to go back out on the road big time. How many weeks do you work? You work every week?
Probably do 25.
That's what I want to get to.
Yeah.
I'm doing about 15 now, 15 weeks.
Right.
And I want to get to the point where I'm at 25, and I want the money to be, I want to be able to make more money at the gigs. It's amazing. My last show I did was 10 years ago, my last TV show. And it was so bad that I waited 10 years to put out another one. Yeah. And it's coming out now, hopefully soon. And then I'll be able to make enough money to supplement the money that I have in my
Do you have
bank.
retirement money?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that.
Now you got to get that college savings account going.
Yeah, that's what I'm here.
It's a catch-22 though, because the more you put in it, the less they give you in grants.
Right. I don't even know this stuff. He's too.
In other words, there's this form you fill out, and it's like the most intensive fucking proctology exam of your finances. They find out everything, and then they decide whether or not you're eligible for, because most kids don't pay the full ride at colleges. 20% of the kids at a college pay the full tuition, and everybody else gets some help.
Yeah.
And because I funded my college, they didn't give me any money at all. It was a mistake.
Oh, okay.
Don't fill your college savings account to the brim. Put some in.
Yeah, okay.
But not fully.
Yeah. Can you give me something to put in, like after this show?
Giving you advice. That's more important than the money, Mitch.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the advice.
I need to buy diapers, dude. Well, how old are your kids?
My son just started college this
Isn't
fall.
that weird for you to have a college? Because you can remember being in college.
Yeah.
It's odd. I'm so behind that I look at my son and it still makes me feel kind of young because he's so young.
Yeah.
But I think if I had a kid in school, that would freak me out. Just to know that he had his own life like I did. And I'd be scared of the mistakes that how many times did you almost die as a kid?
So many times. Well, the prefrontal cortex isn't developed yet until they're 25.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that stops you and makes you think about long-term decisions and your well-being, and you just don't have it. And then you add pot and booze and pussy, crazy for pussy, and you do stupid shit.
I took so many stupid chances, and I feel, but I think it's because I had low self-esteem. My key is to give my son high self-esteem so they don't make the better choices. And I don't think fighters have that thing that stops you from doing crazy shit, right? Because anybody who had that wouldn't get in an octagon and fight another man.
I don't do crazy shit. Like, well, I suppose I'm one of the crazier friends, I suppose, in my group. But
are you? That's actually a good question. Are you the kind of person that you'll take risks in other things, like dirt bike riding or something like that? Like, because it sounds to me like Cowboy Cerrone is just such a nutty guy.
Oh no, I'm not like Cowboy. No, no, I do like stupid shit sometimes. Like, we were at a wedding recently, me and a few of my buddies, and it was at this like really nice mansion, Botisher mansion, some shit in Golden. And it wasn't me, but someone like took off the fire extinguisher and fucking sprayed it all over like one of these like really fancy rooms.
Yeah.
And I mean, everyone thought that was me, but like that's some shit that I do, but I'm not like a fucking.
I love that his crazy story is something his friend
It's not
did.
even crazy. Yeah, yeah, like not even crazy shit. No.
He's like, it's so crazy. People thought it was me.
Yeah. Yeah, like I'll do that kind of dumb shit, but I won't like put my life in
Have you ever?
danger.
What's the dumbest thing you've ever done? What's the dumbest move you've ever made in
Rape?
your life?
Start this podcast?
Yeah, that's a bad one. Took my call.
Yeah, fucking said yes to this. I don't know. I'd have to think about
What
that.
about you,
It's
Greg?
not that dumb.
What's the
though.
Dumbest thing I've ever
you've
done?
Yeah.
Oh God, I ruminate on this shit all the time.
I took a shit in a urinal in like a Mexican strip club one time.
Dude, I just did
That's
that
pretty
yesterday.
good.
It's not that bad.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, it's a good one. It was really like cool to like see your shit inside of a urinal.
Yeah.
So,
By the way, just talking about shit, Cory was downstairs and he goes, I need to use the bathroom downstairs. I was like, well, just use it in Greg's condo. He's like, I'm not going to shit in his condo. And I was like, you could shit in his condo. He's a comic. We've
Yeah.
been through it all, but he respected you
I
enough.
have respect for you. Greg.
I appreciate
Yeah.
you not shitting in the
Yeah.
condo.
But he
Yeah,
shit,
you don't do that
But,
when
he
you
shit in
first
your
meet
sink
someone.
when you go over there and just
I thought you were getting water.
Nope.
That's the stupidest thing I've ever done. Jesus. Me and my friends, we had a wrist rocket, and we were hiding in the bushes. There was a college in Tarrytown. It was an all-girls college, and we were sitting in the bushes, and cars were driving by, and we were shooting the cars, and I blew out the side window of this car.
Yeah.
And it turns out it was there was all these Puerto Rican guys, and they chased me and my two friends through the woods, and my friend, one friend just took off, and the other guy had an asthma attack.
Yeah.
And I stayed back with him.
Oh, you were a good guy.
And then the Puerto Rican guys came, and I'm like, we're fucking dead.
Yeah.
And they were like, we're taking you to the police. I was like, thank you.
I think my stupid things were all just having a lot of unprotected sex.
Yeah, well,
with a
that's
lot of girls that looked like they probably, and I would do that thing. I had unprotected sex with a girl that I met at a bus stop in Las Vegas 10 minutes after I met her. And the way the brain works is phenomenal because I was like, she's fine. Like when I got back to the room, I was like, she's fine. And in my head, I was like, she was waiting. She had a bus pass. How responsible. She's got to be responsible. And I lived a lot of my life. I got a couple of STDs along the way and stuff. That
Did you
kind
ever
of
have
shit
to
like
pay
that.
for an abortion?
A couple of them.
Yeah.
Yeah. You?
One.
Only one.
Yeah, just one.
Well, I beat you on that number.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm about 100 right now.
No, that's a tough one.
Yeah,
That's a
and
tough one.
that's what I'm scared of for my kid. Is that kind of shit really scares me. If I'd had an illegitimate kid now, that I always consider myself very lucky that I don't have that. There's a lot of guys I know who have like a crazy woman who's raising their kid, who's on, Did you ever hear the story about Chipper Jones from the Atlanta Braves? Chipper Jones.
Yeah.
That was my biggest nightmare story. He fucked a Hooters waitress while he was married in a bathroom. He fucked a Hooters waitress who just wanted to fuck him and came in her, and she had a baby. And now he's got a family, and he's got a kid was raised by a Hooters waitress. Not that there's anything wrong with a Hooters waitress, but
No, I mean, think of the hamburgers that he probably gets.
for free, yeah.
Yeah.
But that kind of stuff, like that could have happened to me, and I look back and I'm really scared about that stuff.
Yeah.
Would you use
unprotected all the
Yeah.
time. Yeah, a lot
Yeah.
of STDs. You name them, I got them. And I got crabs like 3 times. I got chlamydia twice. I got gonorrhea, which is a tough one.
Which is the worst?
I got all these, yeah.
That's the
Gonorrhea
gonorrhea
is
by
the worst.
far.
Why? It just hurts when you pee for how long?
It doesn't hurt. You can't pee. It hurts so much. It's like acid coming out.
Yeah, and you promise yourself you'll never, ever have unprotected sex again
Yeah.
after that, but you do.
You do again.
Yeah. My wife and I have a really embarrassing, my wife and I had unprotected sex on our first date because we both thought we would never see each other again. And now we're stuck with each other, and we can't say, like, it's the first time I ever did that, because we both know that we were both really disgusting.
It's so funny because when you talk about your wife, and I've never met your wife, I have this vision of her being this big, tall, blonde woman, because that was your headshot.
That was the headshot.
The naked
yeah.
woman with
Yeah.
you're
my
both
wife's
naked?
small. She's about 5'2", beautiful, crazy.
Yeah?
Yeah.
She's very nice. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, she's crazy, and she's very sexually free.
Oh,
we
that's
swing.
nice.
We actually swing.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's kind of fun. I actually told Cory when I first met him, but I don't like doing it. She just likes it. I just do it because it's challenging to me.
So what are the scenarios? You go to like sex clubs or you arrange them online?
Well, usually we go to UFC events and we meet a fighter. No, we're not really into it anymore with the kid. But we have like a group of friends and they all swap and stuff.
Yeah.
And we'll get together and do it. And I usually sit on the side and watch because I can't get hard.
Really?
Yeah, because I get really nervous.
You can't get hard with another woman?
No, with other guys around.
Oh, I can see that.
Yeah, I get nervous.
I can totally see
performing. Because I don't have a big dick. I don't have a small one.
Yeah.
But I'm just really average. And in those situations, usually guys are very happy flaunting their penises.
And so does your wife look at you while a guy's having sex with her?
Yeah. Sure, she will. Yeah. Yeah, she'll look at me and I mean, this doesn't happen a lot. It just I like doing it because I like putting myself in situations that are uncomfortable for me. And when we first met, my wife said to me that she likes seeing me with other girls. It turns her on.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, do you want to get married? and then, so one day, and I'm I like to think of myself as a fair guy. I don't feel good when I'm not giving back.
Yeah.
That's just my personality. So one day I said to her, would you ever want to be with another guy? And she's like, yeah, of course I would. And I was like, why? And she actually kind of questioned me and said, why do you like being with other girls? And I said, it's not even necessarily that they're hot or anything. It's just that you're touching something new, and that's exciting. And Jess was like, yeah, that's girls have the same exact thing. It's exciting to just touch something new. And she said, would you let me do it? And I said, well, you let me do it. So if I said no now, I'd feel like a shithead.
Yeah, there's got to be some equity. So when you did it, was your wife involved, or she just watched you with another girl?
Okay, so the way it first started was my wife and I went out with another couple, and there's something in the business of swapping called soft swap. Soft swap means you don't have intercourse. You just like the girls will give like hand jobs or blow jobs to the guys.
In separate rooms?
No, with like usually it's a group thing. Yeah. It goes different ways. But so I said to my wife, I don't think I'll ever be comfortable with you having sex with another guy, but I wouldn't mind like a little hand job action if the other girl was giving me a hand job and whatever. And she's like, okay, that's what we'll do. That'll be what we do. Will be soft swap, because in the business there's soft swap. So I'm a comedian, luckily, so we'd go to towns and girls would come over with their guys or whatever, and this really hot girl came over and found out that we were swingers or soft swap and said, we want to go home with you guys. And we said, okay, our rules are that we're soft swap. And they're like, okay, that's cool. And this girl was smoking. And we all went back to their apartment, and we did a little Molly. And then the girl just undressed me and took my penis in her mouth, and then she said, I want to fuck you. And I just looked at my wife to save me, because we had said my wife was like, I'm not saving you, say no. What I meant was, as soon as I said yes to that, no, actually the story's a little sexier. She was looking at my penis, and she said, that's beautiful, I want to sit on it. And my wife looked at me, and I was like, and I knew that the minute I said, like, okay, sit on it, my wife was now the other guy, the husband's.
Right.
And at that point, I was like, I'm good with this. So because I wasn't going to say no to that.
So you fucked her.
So I fucked her. She's, right there. And it was really, really hot, which is funny because it's the only.
But then did your wife fuck the guy?
Yeah.
All in the same bed?
Bro, isn't that intriguing?
But that's a tight space for four people.
Two couches. We were in their living room. Yeah. I was really lucky my first time with that because the guy had a small penis. So I felt kind of manly. I was like, I can do this. Like, look how big my cock is. And then I started realizing when you go out and you expand your horizons, the guys have much bigger penises.
Yeah.
Because that's usually the confident guys. And then I started getting really nervous.
Yeah.
Which is so silly because it's just like comedy and fighting. Like, why do I even give a shit? Like, just, do you have any insecurities like that? Like, well, you have a big dick. So I think, and most fighters have big dicks, don't they? Do you see that?
The ones I've seen, they're pretty good size.
I think that's a confidence thing.
I've seen a good amount of them. Yeah, they're pretty good.
Yeah, who's the guy who's on your team?
Curtis?
Curtis. He's probably got a
probably. I haven't
pretty
seen
big
Curtis.
penis.
Curtis African American?
Yes.
Yeah. He's like
such a fucking stereotype.
Do you know we're actually having his penis on the podcast? Not even him. It's just, But do you get insecure? Because that's what bothers me. I'm actually talking to Cory's sports psychologist now about this. because I'm trying to get into just living in the moment still in my life and stop worrying what everybody else is thinking. Because what I've learned is like nobody's thinking about you. Nobody gives a shit about you.
Yeah.
It's all in our heads.
It is, and that's why, it's really good is meditation.
We've heard that from Tom Papa. He says he meditates.
Yeah, if you meditate, it can get you out of those thoughts just for 20 minutes, and it resets your brain. Because otherwise, it starts when you wake up, and it doesn't stop until you can't sleep because you're still having the thoughts.
Yeah.
And when you do meditation, it just pauses it for a little while, and then when you come out of the meditation, you're just not as. And there's also, if it's really bad, you can do a thing called CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy.
All right, talk about meditation for Cory.
So, they have a program. There's TM, which is Transcendental Meditation. They have
Tom
centers.
Papa talked about the same thing.
Yeah, they have centers. We went to the same center in LA, and you go, and there's like a 4 or 5 day training, and which you don't necessarily have to do. You can just, fucking go online. You can learn how to meditate. And it's just simple.
And you think that'll take away those insecurities? Because I think
It helps.
because like I said, I'm talking to Cory's sports psychologist now, and I'm trying to figure out why my brain always goes to performance. It always goes to like, I'm always good before people expect something of me.
Yeah.
That's been my career. My first Letterman was great. My second Letterman sucked. My first Comedy Central special was great. My second one sucked. It's always like once people are expecting something of me, I tend to tighten up.
I think I feel like that as well.
Yeah.
Because it's a fear of when you go to the next level, it's scary because it's unknown terrain. You're in another level, and it's scary that you're going to fall.
Yeah.
And so sometimes we bring ourselves down.
Yeah,
I do that.
We give us a reason to fail. That way we don't have to worry about it later. Like that way you're not always waiting to fail. So you just give yourself.
Right.
I have a similar thing. I think mine comes from a different reason, but I always I don't ever want to rematch anyone that I've already beaten just because it's like, I already beat that level.
Yeah.
I feel like it wouldn't be like having to meet the same expectation. It would be this thing of like, I'm not going to get excited about that because I already did that.
You have a perfect nose. You never got broken?
No, it's pretty, it wasn't I got a bump that wasn't there before.
It
but
broke?
no, I've never had it be like how
Never
you
got
see some of those
exploded.
guys.
Yeah.
You know what's weird
Thanks,
about
though.
I thought it was me that you wanted, and now all of a sudden you want my co-host, dude.
I'm 1002. You're 1001.
I always think that one of the interesting things between fighting and comedy is when we're working a room that we've never worked in before. As soon as you go on stage, you immediately feel a certain personality. You have to get to know the room.
Yeah.
You know that feeling?
Right.
And then once you know a room, you're so much more relaxed in it. It's like you know what you're going into. And I would assume it's the same thing that like in fighting, you plan out everything, and then within the first round, it's a whole new thing. You've never fought this guy. And then I would assume if he even gets to the second round, that's when you start to feel comfortable with him. Am I right? Or is it like...
I don't know that I break it down that much, but no, I kind of go in just expecting them to be the opposite of what we've planned for, but if they are what
And how often are they similar to what you've prepared
Almost
for?
always.
Really?
Yeah, almost always.
So fighters are easy to game plan.
I don't think they're easy to game plan. I think I have really good coaches, and my coaches are just smart guys that are like, yeah, this is what he does. Because, I mean, just like how you guys, like, if someone's telling a joke and you know that it's not, there wasn't enough, like, love given to it or there wasn't a lot of thought given to it, you guys know that, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing in fighting where it's like, all right, well, this guy obviously doesn't give a lot of care to this area, so, like, let's go after that
exploit
area.
it. Yeah, right.
And it's easy to see. I mean, when you have an eye for it, like you guys have for jokes.
You know what I don't understand is like leg kicks. That's got to hurt your foot more than you hurt the guy's leg.
My legs are probably the number one most. My legs and my feet are always the most hurt things.
Wow,
after.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I actually have because I wear tube socks all the time.
Yeah.
So after a fight, I'll wear tube socks because all of the swelling in the shins will just go down.
Yeah.
So I have bumps right where my tube socks line up because I want the pressure from the tube socks, but there's bumps right on those tube socks from all of the swelling that hardens. But
so is that from getting kicked or from kicking?
It's from kicking.
From kicking somebody with your legs. I mean, but especially if you catch somebody with like your toes and you're kicking full on. You ever break a toe?
Yeah, I have a lot of fucked up toes actually. The one on the left one, the toe won't bend in the middle part of it.
Yeah.
So it will just bend like this. But, like, that makes for really uncomfortable running because you're supposed to be, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the feet get really fucked up. The feet are probably the number one thing that get fucked up.
Yeah.
Selling a lot of your body doing that business. It's just like a lot of your body, because your body's taking on a lot of damage that it's probably not supposed to take on constantly. Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, if you train crazy, then yeah, that would be the case. If you take care of yourself, then yeah, it's not terrible. But, I mean, yeah, I'm sore. Like, when I'm in a training camp, the only day that I'm not sore is Monday, and that's because I rest on Sundays.
So you just learn
every
to live
other
like
day.
that.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, older guys will complain like, "Oh, you're a young guy, like you don't whatever." But it's like, no, man. Like, I wake up like fucking this every day, just hunched over.
You
and
take aspirin or anything?
I don't like taking that kind of medicine and stuff.
But
no.
some guys must be hooked on all kinds of shit from that pain.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
You know what I think is funny? What they deal with in the physical thing, I think we deal with in the loneliness. Like, that's what I don't know how you dealt, and that's why we had so much probably like, you know, unprotected sex. When you're on the road, man, it's just lonely.
Yes.
I mean, I remember just hotel after hotel and driving to one, and I remember sometimes feeling like I was going to cry. And then I remember understanding for the first time that, like, oh, I'm getting paid to travel, not for the show. The shows are the best. The shows are the best part.
Exactly.
I can do those, but man, it's the travel. It's like you guys get paid for the training more than anything.
Yeah.
It's like, you know,
Right.
that's how I think about it.
Yeah, and you know, you want to be productive, and I usually get like if I'm gone 3 days, I'll have one day where I'm super productive, and I reply to all my emails,
Yeah,
and
me
I
too.
do some writing.
Feels great too, right?
And then the other days you go, the show's in 20 minutes and I haven't showered. I didn't meditate. I didn't work out. I didn't work on my jokes. Like, and you literally can't account for the 12 hours you were away.
Yeah. I remember a couple comedians missing shows, and I remember thinking, like, we're working 1 hour a day.
Right.
How do you miss the 1 hour in the 24 hours that you have to do
Because it's
nothing?
not enough.
Yeah. Because of the loneliness. And that's why a lot of the guys do. Were you ever a drug guy? You said just alcohol, right?
No, I did a lot of drugs.
Did you?
Yeah.
I was never a drug guy.
Yeah.
Except with my wife, I'll do the Molly. I like the Molly and stuff.
Never done Molly. I did it once, but it didn't work. But mushrooms, I'll still do mushrooms sometimes. I think mushrooms are good for your head, kind of reset things a little bit.
I would panic on those.
Like big mushroom trips or the microdosing? Like
no, a big mushroom trip.
Yeah, big ones.
Yeah.
You know, we only have you for a couple more minutes, and we got so off on so many other things. I had so many questions for you. So
hit me with the questions.
First, I want to ask you, because having the famous dad. So at what point first of all, did you always know you were going to go into show business? And then at what point did you make the serious push to, okay, I'm going to do this?
Well, I thought I was going to be a writer. So I went to college I got a English degree, and I just assumed I'd be a writer.
What kind of writer? A writer for a show or a writer of books?
No, novels.
Really?
And then I was doing stand-up during college, because in Boston, like, my dorm was next door to, like, one of the comedy clubs. And I used to just go there every night. And then I started doing open mic nights, and then I started getting work. And
it was that simple for you? You just were that good immediately?
No, there was that much of a need for comedians. There really was just a ton of rooms. I really was not that good starting out. But it was like all the headliners had gotten DUIs and they couldn't drive. So if you had a working car and you could drive these guys to New Hampshire or Maine or Rhode Island and you could do the time, you could make $50 cash that night.
Yeah.
And so I was scraping out a living when I got out of college. And I can't honestly say there was ever a moment where I decided to do it.
Really?
I think I just, like, I was obsessed with comedy as a kid.
Who was your favorite comedian growing up?
Bob Newhart.
That's a really interesting comic for a young comic to like, because he's more of an older generation. I like him and I appreciate him, but it's odd you say that. Because even if I say Steve Martin, who's mine, people are like, they don't even really remember he was a stand-up anymore.
Yeah, right.
Bob Newhart's a really unique guy.
Yeah, but I liked his creativity, that he would create characters and he would play out whole scenes by himself
and his timing.
On stage.
He's so slow.
Timing and his deadpan.
Yeah.
I got a lot of my style comes from that deadpan, the long pauses on stage, and the, reading a small thing on my face.
Right.
And so, so I think I just, like, it just sort of happened, and all of a sudden I was a comedian,
That's interesting. So that it wasn't even anything that you kind of consciously made a decision, you just kind of fell into it.
I fell into, I didn't fall. I mean, I pushed myself into it, but I was only pushing myself into the jumping out of the plane part of like, I want to get on stage. I want to write new jokes. I want to get that roar of applause and laughter, and it became addictive. And so I just kept feeding into it. But I would say I didn't use the word career until I'd been doing it about 7 years.
Isn't it funny? It's still addictive too. Like it still never stops feeling good.
Right.
Like I love that moment when I'm getting the laughs, and then afterwards it goes back down to being normal.
Yeah.
But I can never get enough of it.
Right.
That's what I would think I would miss about if I was a fighter is you're going to have to give that up one day. That roar. I mean, because I watch the UFC and I'm like, man, I'm actually jealous of the guys walking into the fight. I'm like, what a great, it's the old fashioned, it's the gladiators just walking. I always think that when I see them walking, I'm like, it's for the beginning of time. It's still that exciting. There's one guy just walking and everybody gets this excitement that they're about to do something that I think is like just crazy to most people. And that roar's got to be just really insane.
The roar doesn't do that much for me. To be honest, like the most exciting thing for me is like when I'm in the gym and I figure some shit out where I was screwing up a lot, and then I figure out how to fix that and how much better I'm going to be from that.
And watching it work.
And watching it work and like doing it in actual live situations where it does work, that's the more exciting part. Like I got really excited this week about, probably more excited than I got for the actual fight with Frankie is, like I figured some shit out that I had been like trying to figure out for a really long time, but I actually figured it out and I've been pumped about it. That's more fun
What's
for me.
Phantom, like 150 pounds?
35.
135?
Yeah, I lose about 20 pounds to make that though.
No shit.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. As somebody who hasn't had a fight in a while, and sometimes I think about like if I was with my kids or something and a fight started, what's the most effective way for a lay person to end a physical altercation physically?
To be able to wrestle, to be able to take them down. Like no one's
more
gonna
so
hurt
than
you.
a throat punch.
I don't know, man. Like
Or an eye poke.
If I was in a street fight, and I haven't gotten in fights in a really long time, but I don't think I'd punch someone, man. Like that would hurt your hand.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot of little bones in there, you know. And if you hit someone in the skull, you're gonna break your hand.
Really?
Yeah.
I never knew
man.
that.
Yeah, if you punch someone as hard as you can, like you may as well punch like the wall as hard as you
true.
can.
Crazy,
you know?
because it's
you're
just
gonna hurt your hand.
Because it's just like in the movies, it looks so fun in
I
the
know.
movies to just
Yeah.
knock someone out that easy.
And then you
You're
got
like,
those fights where people exchange punches, those old movies
Yeah.
where they just keep socking you. And I always think, like, what part of his face did he hit? Because at the end of the fight, his face isn't fucked up.
Yeah.
Is it the nose, the cheek, the teeth? Because he just kept hitting him in the face.
So Corey, he brought up a good point because I want to know that. Because now having a son, because you're talking about well, I have a son. I feel vulnerable if there's ever a situation where someone, like some drunk guy, if I'm bringing my kid to go see a show or something and bumps into me, like how do I end that altercation really fast?
If they're that much bigger than you, you just get out of there. There's weight classes for a reason. You know, if they're that much bigger, you get out of there. But if you have to fight them, you take them down, and that's how you win.
So you're saying that if you had a boy, you would teach him that like it's better to walk away from something to get it to walk.
Oh yeah, of course.
And when you say take him down and then eventually get him into a chokehold, right?
Yeah, if they were still fighting back, of course. But I mean, if you wanted to punch them when they were on the ground, sure you could.
Yeah.
But like, being on top, like, you got to be on top of someone in a street fight.
Yeah.
Or else, I mean, it's called puncher's chance. Everyone has a puncher's chance, even if they suck, you know, even if you know what you're
Rock'em,
doing.
robots. Yeah.
It's kind of like a comedian who has a great set in an open mic and they just got lucky because it was a perfect audience or whatever.
Yeah,
Thinks that
usually
they're
your
good.
first set, you get a break. You get like a beginner's luck kind of a thing. But, yeah, I mean, different people have different strategies about that. I mean, throat punch I've heard is good. If it's somebody's that much bigger than you, can't get out of it, that maybe you just try to, from that angle, you can punch them in the throat and then get the fuck out of there because they'll be incapacitated for 30 seconds.
I actually watched a guy get kicked in the throat with like a straight kick at a tournament one time a long time ago. And yeah, that guy was done, bro. Yeah,
I
like,
actually have a
done.
different way of handling it. I just start blowing the guy, and usually that calms him down. If you've ever been in that situation.
Now, is that part of your 200?
Mitch just gets naked right away anytime there's a confrontation.
My number
Now
was
you
one.
see Mitch trying to start fights on the street just so he can blow a guy?
You ever been knocked out? Or have you ever knocked anyone out? And then we'll end on
Playing
that.
hockey, I got knocked out.
Like knocked cold.
Knocked out cold
In
on
a
the
fight
ice.
or a hit?
No, a hit. Yeah. but not in a fight.
Where you
no.
woke up and you didn't know what happened. That's
Yeah.
what I always, when I watch the fights and I see a guy get knocked out, it's always weird to see the coaches explaining to them what happened afterwards. That's a weird
I got
thing for
choked
me.
out by a female MMA fighter once on
Not that
purpose.
bad, right?
It wasn't bad.
No, it's not. Everyone thinks it's going to be
Except
terrible. It's
she
not
did
bad.
it as an arm bar across the front.
Oh, yeah.
She didn't do, you're
The
supposed to
blood
do it
choke.
here and here on the sides. But she did it straight across my windpipe.
Yeah.
And so my neck was sore for like 10 days.
Yeah.
Oh, really? Because
Yeah.
me and Cory have a outstanding thing now that when we get to 100 episodes, he's going to do 5 minutes of stand-up in front of a sold-out room, and I'm going to go like 5 minutes with an MMA fighter. And I think I'll just let myself get choked out.
Wouldn't you go against him?
No, because he loves me.
Yeah.
We have something special.
Yeah, I'm too nice. We'd put him against someone that isn't as nice.
Plus, you know that Mitch will probably start blowing you.
Well, I mean, you got to end on that, right? Hey, just real fast. So you're a famous podcaster, and this is our first podcast go around. Any advice for us? Did we do good? Like, what?
Yeah, I think it's good. I like that you did a little research. You had some.
I had so many
You
more
had an
questions for you.
angle.
The time goes by too
I
fast.
like the father angle because that was personal for me and you. And, you know,
And it's weird because I can't get Cory to talk about his parents at all. Won't talk about them. Just doesn't say anything about them.
No.
Gets quiet when I mention it.
I was hit a lot. They used to beat the shit out of me.
maybe it was just really boring.
I just know, I think
Yeah,
it is
that's
that.
it.
Yeah,
That's kinda
because
what it
he
is.
seems to have had a great childhood.
Everybody longs for a boring childhood.
That's what I want my son to have.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a boring child. Well, he'll just have to listen to this podcast.
Yeah.
Greg Fitzsimmons was our guest. I'm supposed to announce the names more often, right? I didn't do that.
No, you don't have to do that.
Well,
They
because
know
people
in the
read
title
it now.
of the podcast.
It's a different world now with the
Yeah,
computers.
you don't have to say anybody's names.
Okay, yeah, because the first podcast we forgot to introduce our guest.
Oh.
So, Greg Fitzsimmons.
Are you supposed to announce my stand-up dates that are coming up?
Yeah, but this is not going to come out until January.
Yeah,
if
but
you
I
want
have
to give
dates
it.
after January.
Don't you have something more, more evergreen you can promote, like a
Yeah,
book or
there's
something?
my podcast is Fitz Dog Radio, and then I
There
have
you go.
another podcast with Allison Rosen called Childish, where she's got babies and I've got teenagers, and I try to teach her how to parent, and she's not really buying it.
That sounds like fun.
Yeah, that's good. And then I do a thing on Cameo, where I can leave you a video message on Cameo. Have you heard of Cameo?
Yeah.
Yeah, a few fighters do that
Yeah,
too.
so you can go to find me on Cameo. I'll do that. I've got T-shirts, a book. You know,
What's the name of the book?
Dear Mrs. Fitzsimmons,
Oh, I
Tales
heard
of
about it.
Redemption from an Irish Mailbox.
Oh, cool.
You're a pretty proficient. You've had a great life. Would you say that?
I have.
Yeah.
I've had a great life. I
You
have
seem
no regrets.
happier than I am. You seem more content than I am.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's a work in progress, and I think it's just like what you said. If you can just quiet the fucking thoughts,
I wish I
the
could.
life is there.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, to live it because it's going by so fast.
Right.
Yeah. All right, and well, there was one other question I had for you about our podcasting thing. So you think you like the angles that we came at? And
Yeah, that's good. And, you know, you can come up with a couple. Sometimes it's fun to have segments. Like I do a thing called Overheard,
Yeah.
where people overhear
Right.
thing on the
We'll do
street. They
segments.
email them in, and then
I'm going to
so
do a
maybe
segment now
couple segments.
called Overheard, starting on our next thing. You're going to watch.
Where did you
Cory's-
hear about that?
It's just something I came up with on my own. Dane Cook told me about it. You're going to watch Cory's fight January 25th.
Yeah.
January 25th, 2020. You going to watch?
Probably not. I'm not going to lie to you.
That's all right. I haven't watched any of your stand-up either,
Yeah.
so.
I mean, I like
Fuck
that we
you,
just
too.
have, I like that we just have, no, we have a friendship that has nothing to
Yeah.
do with like our professional roles. Like we're just
Yeah.
two guys that I feel like we have good energy together.
We're friends now?
I think so.
I think so, too.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Cory told me he's still waiting to see if we're friends. And we've been together now for 6 months.
Yeah, we're not fucking friends yet.
By the way, having a friend as a fighter is not what I thought it would be. I don't like it. I get nervous. I get nervous for him. Like,
Yeah, I can
yeah, I
see
get
that.
nervous. Like,
No, that's really why I wouldn't watch, because I would get codependent about. And to be honest, I've tried to watch fighting, but I feel so bad when somebody's getting the shit kicked out of
Yeah,
them.
I do too.
Because the
do
gloves are so small. Boxing, it's like, okay, but at
Yeah,
least
yeah.
they're big pillows on their hands. But
Yeah.
you guys, Jesus
It's probably
Christ.
the same when people watch us that love us and are just dying on
Yeah.
stage and stuff. I've had.
That's why I can't watch your stand-up.
When we swap, though, wait till you see how good I am.
Oh, yeah, I can't wait to see that little thing.
All right. Punchlines Podcast. Thanks for listening.
Podcast.